Hey, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to make an ALS style system. So to get started, you're going to go to Games. You're going to select third person. You're going to press Next, name it. I chose no starter content, and then create your project. Once you got it loaded and you have your character in here, you don't have to use your own character. You can use a third person mannequin if you don't want to, or if you don't have a character. But I'm going to use a third person mannequin. So to get started, you're going to open up your character's skeleton, and you can skip this part if you're using the Unreal Engine mannequin. Once you got this open, you're going to go to your Retarget Manager. You can go to Window, and you can go to Retarget Manager right here. And you can go to Select Rig, Select Humanoid Rig, and save it. Or no, Auto Map first and then save it. And then you're going to go to Mannequin, Character, Mesh, and you're going to open up his skeleton. You're going to go to Select Rig and select Humanoid Rig and Auto Map. So once you got that out of the way, you can go to the Animations folder, right click on his third person AnimBP, go retarget, duplicate Anim, select your character right here. If it's not showing up, go back to your character, open up the skeleton, and under here, under preview scene settings, it should have an apply button, and you press that apply button. Now come back over here to the animations folder of the mannequin, right click on it again, go to retarget AnimBP, select it, select your skeleton, go to change, it's in the bottom right, go to the folder you want to send these to, right click and create a new folder. I'm going to call mine animations. Then under that, I'm just going to right click and add a new folder. I'm just going to call this motions. Now I'm going to press OK. I'm going to go to retarget. Now your character has to be in the Unreal Engine mannequin pose. If it's not, then it won't retarget correctly. To check, what you're going to do is you're just going to open up one of them, and if it's moving like this, then it's correct. If the fingers are all twisted or stretched or whatever, then you didn't have it set up right, and you need to go and do that. So after you've done that, just go ahead and save all of this. Go back to your player's skeleton, open it up. We're going to go to the skeleton tree. We're going to right click on the root and add a virtual bone to the root. If you're using the Unreal Engine mannequin, you don't have to do this, but this part of it at least. But what I'm going to initially do is I'm going to create a virtual bone version of the IK foot root, IK foot R, and IK foot L, because on my character, the character creator 3 characters, for some reason these IK bones aren't set up properly, and when you're moving in an animation, and I'll go ahead and show you. I'll go to motion, I'll go to the walk one. Now you see it's walking. Now if you select the foot, you'll see the foot is moving, right? You can see the foot bone moving. Now if you come down here and you select the IK foot R, it's not moving. It's supposed to be moving with it. So they're not moving with it. So that's why I'm doing this. So if I don't do this, then when I run the line traces will be running from the root, and it won't be lined up properly with the feet. So off of this, after you've created a root to the root, virtual bone pointing to the root, you're going to right click on that one, and you're going to point this one to the left foot. You're going to do another one, you're going to point it to the right foot, and then we're going to rename them. So I'm going to rename this one IK foot root. Now the actual name of these virtual bones is going to be capital V, capital B, space, and then what you named it. So if you need to reference it, then you have to put in the VB space manually. This one I'm going to call in IK foot R. And actually it does this every time you press enter, so I'll show you another way to keep it from doing that. IK foot L, and instead of pressing enter, if you select one of these white ones, it won't send you back to the top. So off of this IK foot R, I'm going to point it back to the to the foot R. So you'll have this going from the root to that, and then you'll have, oh, I actually named those wrong. Let me put a 2 there, and I will rename this one to R, and I will rename this one to L, and then I will delete this one and scroll back down. Now I will right click on this left one, and I will type in foot, and I will point it to the left foot. And so this one points to the left foot, and then this one, you'll see a little red orb right there at the ankle. So this one we're going to name IK foot L offset. I'm going to press that. I'm going to right click on the IK foot L again, and I'm going to point it to the calf this time, the calf L. And on this one I'm going to name it IK knee target offset. Let's name it knee L target offset. Now, oops. Now on this one we're going to do the same thing. Foot R this time, and then calf R, and then we're going to rename this one to IK foot R offset, and IK knee R offset. Actually, let's just name them, let's take the target out of there, making it too long. Okay, so now all those virtual bones are set up, and we can test them by opening up an animation, and we can scroll down here and we can select them, select the knee, and you'll see the knee is moving with it. That's what we wanted. So we'll do our line traces off of here because it'll give us better results. Now that we have all that done, we can close out all of that, and we can open up our animation blueprint. Now in here, before we do anything else, what we're going to do is up here we're going to right click and type in initialize initialize, yeah, there we go. And you'll get the event blueprint initialize animation. We're gonna Control X this try get pawn owner and Control V it right here. We're gonna cast it to character. The reason why we do this is because we want this to work across all of our characters. We want to be able to use the same one. Ideally, you're going to have all your characters using the same skeleton. They're all going to be assigned to the same skeleton. And you're going to want them all to use the same animation blueprint for the most part. So, because you're going to have multiple characters using the same one, we're going to cast this to the character. You could also cast this to your parent blueprint and have all your characters children of that blueprint, and that would work as well, but it's not really necessary. We can cast a character. We're going to try to keep any specific cast like that out of our animation blueprints. So we're just going to promote this to variable. I'm going to call this charref. And now down here, I'm just going to hold down Control to get it. I'm going to plug it in here. I'm going to Control copy and Control V to paste it. Now that we have all that set up, I'm going to move this out here. I'm going to select both of them and press Q to align it, I'm going to promote this to a variable. I'm not going to rename it. I'm going to leave it like it is. We're going to need this for our interpolation later on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create some functions. We're going to call this one update foot IK. We're going to call this one set foot IK. Now on this one we're going to add some variables. We're going to set these, actually create one and set it to name, and then create two more. And then the first one we're going to call this anim curve name. We're going to call this one foot IK bone. We're going to call this one root bone. And then we're going to create another one, and this time we're going to change it to a vector. And down here we're going to press this arrow and pass by reference. And this one is going to be called, I'm just going to type in L underscore foot IK offset. And then I'm going to press it again. And now this one will also be a passed by reference, which is what we wanted. And this one we're going to call this one L foot IK target. And then we're going to press it again. And this one we're going to change to a rotator. And we're going to call this L foot IK rotation. And that's what we're going to have for that. Now we're going to go ahead and create another one, and we're going to call this one set pelvis IK. And it's going to take in two variables as well, but we do not need those to be passed by reference, so we're going to uncheck pass by reference. And what pass by reference is if you want to have a value plugged into here, but you want to be able to set that value from inside of here without having to specifically reference it, then you're going to set it by ref. You're going to set by ref variable, but in order for that to work, it needs to be passed by reference. So on these, we're going to change these to vectors, and I'm going to type in L foot IK target. Foot IK L target. And this one L foot IK R target. That's what we're going to have for this. And I'm just putting the L in front of there so that I can distinguish it, because if distinguish it as a local whenever I'm trying to find it inside of here. You don't have to do it. You don't have to name it like that, but it makes it a little bit easier if you have the names a bit different. So now we just need one more, and we're going to call this one reset IK. That's all we're going to do on there for now. We're going to come back, we're going to double click the anim graph, and well, we need to come over here into the state machine, and then double click the idle run, and then move this over here, and off of here we're going to type in modify curve, and this is the way they do it, and I'll explain what it is that we're doing. So inside of your animations you have curves. You can modify these curves per animation on an animation to animation basis. Now in our case, we're mostly controlling the foot IK alphas from inside of here, but we're going to use curves rather than values, because that's what they did in ALS. And the reason why they did that is because in some cases you might need to specifically tell it to turn on and off the foot IK at specific points during an animation. And if you use a regular value to control all that, then you'll have to redo everything later on to compensate for it so that you can do that. So inside of here, just open up, go to your motions like I did, where your animations are, and double click one of them. It doesn't matter which one. We're just going to create the curves, and then we're going to remove them from this animation. So go to curves right here, go to add curve, go to create curve, and we're going to call this enable foot IKL. And then go to add curve, create curve, enable underscore foot IKR, and press enter. Don't click off of it because it won't add it. If it didn't add it right here, then you didn't do it right, and it wasn't created. So afterwards, right click on them and remove the selected curve, save it, and that's all you have to do. So over here, you're going to come up here where it says alpha, expose this pin, and just uncheck that. Now you're going to right click on it, and you're going to go to add curve pin, and you're going to scroll down through here until you find it, enable foot IKL, and then you're going to do it again, add curve, enable foot IKR, and you're just going to turn both of them on when they're running. And we're going to control C this to copy it. We're going to press the back button, and we're going to come over here to jump start. So when he jumps, we're just going to turn foot IK off, because if we don't, his feet will be trying to find they'll be trying to move into a foot IK position, and we don't need this. We don't need foot IK when we're in the air. So we're going to turn it off while we're in the air. Ideally, you probably won't do this on jump start. You would probably do it between auto run and jump start by dragging off it here and adding a state, and then moving that state into there based off of some logic. So we're just going to do it that way for now, the way I did it. Now over here under animation layers, we're going to create a new animation layer, and we're going to call this foot IK. And over here under details, if you don't have details, go to window and look for details right up here at the top. Now we're going to press the plus button right here to add a new input, and we're just going to move this over here. And then we're going to come back over here to the anim graph, and we're going to right click, and we're going to type in linked anim layer, and we're going to select it and go to layer and go to foot IK, and it'll add that in pose. And so we're just going to hook it up right here. And now inside of here, we're going to add some modify bones, some transform modify bones. And then we'll need two bone IKs, two bone IKs. So I'm pressing Control W to duplicate that. We're going to move this over a bit more, put some space right there as well, and right there. We're going to connect this one up to this one. Now we're going to duplicate this one twice and move those like that, and then we're going to duplicate them. Okay, sometimes Control W doesn't work, so press Control C and then Control V and then Control V again. So we'll have a total of 5 modified bones. Now we're going to go ahead and connect these up just like this, just like I am. And then I'll explain to you how this is going to work. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to get those virtual bones that we created. And let me come back here and open this up for reference purposes so I can show you. So down here, we're going to get these virtual bones, and we're going to set the position where we want them to be. So we're going to calculate all of that inside of our functions, and then we're going to set it right here. So we're going to tell those virtual bones to be placed a specific place. Then we're going to move the pelvis into position. Then we're going to set up our knee target virtual bones, which we're going to use as our joint bones for the 2 bone IK. So the two bone IK, this is what does everything really. This is what's going to move our legs towards the target. So it needs a joint target to tell it which way the joint needs to be oriented, and then it needs an effector target, which tells it where the entire leg is being moved to. So that's what we're setting up here. So first off, we're going to come over here to this one, and we're going to set up our left one. So we're going to select scale and uncheck expose as pin, because we're not going to use that. But for the bone to modify, we want to scroll down to the very bottom, and we want to select that virtual bone IK foot L offset. Under translation, we're going to add to existing, and under translation space, this is going to be in world space, because that's where we're going to calculate everything at. And we're going to do the same thing for the rotation. And now for this one, we're going to do the same thing except for the next one, the other foot, IK foot R offset. Add to existing world space. Add to existing world space, because we're going to move it and rotate it properly. And then under here, we're going to do this one for the pelvis right here. And we're going to add to existing, and this one is also in world space. Let's go back up to this one and uncheck the scale, because we don't need that. And on this one, we do not need the rotation or the scale. So we're just going to move this up here. Now on these, we actually really don't need anything right now, any of these. But you can leave the translation exposed if you want. I prefer to, because these are going to have to be modified on a character to character basis. And if you've seen my other video, I show how you can do that. So this represents how far in the knees are. For now, though, we're just going to use this so that we can position it properly. There is something we'll do in the end. We're going to change these alphas to anim curves. But for this one, for right now, we're going to go to bone to modify, go all the way down to the bottom and select the knee L offset. And then set the knee R offset. And then I'm going to set this to 20 and 30. And I'm going to set this one to -20 and -30. Yeah, so under translation mode, we need to add to existing, and we need to set this to bone space, because we're moving this in local space. Since it's the bone and we're moving it, we want to offset it by where it's already at. We want to offset it 20 centimeters on the X from the knee and 30 centimeters on the Y for the knee. So from the knee. And we want to do the same thing over here. Add to existing in bone space. And now you get to see this is the new location. The knee was the old location. This is the new location. And so what this does is it lets the knee, this joint target of the 2 bone IK, it lets it know that the knee needs to be pointing in this direction. So over here on the 2 bone IK, we're going to set this one to foot left. Foot L, we're going to allow stretching just a little bit. The defaults are fine. Under effector location space, we're going to change this to bone space. And our effector target is going to be this virtual bone right here that we just set. So we'll scroll down to the bottom, and VBIK foot L offset will be our virtual bone. We are going to take the rotation from the effector space, since we're also setting the rotation of the foot as well as the location. Our joint target is going to be in bone space, and it is going to be this virtual bone IK knee L offset. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. This one is going to be the right foot. Same things here. Allow stretching, bone space, take rotation, scroll down to the very bottom, and this is going to be IK foot R offset. And then this one is going to be bone space, and the joint target is going to be the knee R offset. And now we can go ahead and start changing these from the alpha. So basically you can just select all of these. Okay, maybe you can't. Let's see. They have to be of the same kind. So select the two bone IKs by holding down shift and go to alpha input and change it to anim curve value. And now you should be able to select all of these at the same time and go to anim curve value. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to type in enable underscore foot IK L. I'm going to select all that and copy it. And for all the left ones, I'm just going to paste that. And actually, we didn't need to do that for the pelvis, so set the pelvis back to a float. Now on this one, I want to say enable, or I'm just going to paste that one, but I'm going to replace it with an R, copy it, and paste it. Now we're going to uncheck expose as pin on these because we don't need these pins. And I'm just going to move this over here. And you can label all this if you want. For now, I'm not going to. So we're going to promote all these to variables. I'm going to call this foot IK L offset. Foot IK L rotation. Foot IKR offset. Foot IKR rotation. Promote this one to variable. We'll call this pelvis offset and pelvis alpha. All right. So now we can get started in here. Drag out your character reference. Pull off of them, say is falling. It'll automatically add the character movement to it. Now I'm just going to branch this because we only want it to calculate the foot IK if the character is not falling. Let's do a knot off of here and then plug that in. So we're going to set our foot IK up here. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to set the pelvis right here. We're going to link all these together. And then down here, we're going to set the pelvis, but we're going to leave it zeroed out. And then we're going to reset the IK. And what this does is this prevents snapping. So if you didn't have this here, when you jumped and you hit the ground, your character would jerk for a second and then it would recorrect itself. So we don't want that, so we're zeroing everything out, all these values out while they're in the air, so it doesn't try to set them back to these old values when it resets back to the ground. So we're just going to drag this one out here and we're going to promote this one to a variable. And we're just going to take the L off the front of it. And actually, I'm going to put foot IK L target. And then I'm going to promote this one and I'm just going to call it foot IK R target. And then we're going to connect the offsets up and the rotators. Same for this one. Alright, and then right here we're going to grab both of these targets and hook those up. So that's the base logic of it right here. And now we're going to go and we're going to set up the rest of it. So we go into the set foot IK, and first off what we need to do is we need to check, we need to get curve value, and we need to check to see if this is greater than 0. And then we're going to branch off of here, and if it's not greater than 0, then that means that it's 0 and there is no foot IK, which means that they're probably in the air or rolling or whatever. In any case, we need to reset the foot IK offset and the foot IK rotation. So I'm going to drag off of here and type in L space foot IK offset and L space foot IK rotation, and then we're going to type in by ref and by ref, or duplicate it. Should work the same. And we're just going to leave these blank at 0 because that's what we want. And then off of here, we're going to do a sequence. And we're going to need 3 execution pins. And on the first one up here, we're going to get the foot IK bone and foot IK root. So let's just go ahead and get that. Get foot IK bone and get root bone. And we're going to bring these up here. Put them together. We're going to get owning component. The owning component is the skeletal mesh. So the skeletal mesh that belongs to this particular instance of this animation blueprint is what we're grabbing. We're going to get socket location. We're going to duplicate this and we're going to plug these in. Now, if we come back over here, I'm going to come back up here to the top and I minimize this, you'll see if I turn this down from warp speed, you'll see that the root sets at the Z location of the hill, but the IK foot left sets at the ankle. So we're going to get the XY of this and we're going to add it to the Z of the root, and that's going to be our floor location. So let's split these. Well, let's recombine this one for a second, and I'm going to promote this one to a local variable, and I'm going to call it expected floor location. Then we're going to break it and we're going to split it again, and we're going to split this one and we're going to plug the X and the Y and the Z into here. We're going to plug this one into here. I'm just going to move this up over here. Alright, so we got that. Now we're going to say vector plus vector and vector minus vector. And I'm going to promote this to a regular variable, and we're going to call this start trace distance. You can name it whatever you want. And we're going to name this end trace distance. I'm not sure if I explained this, but basically what we're going to do is from this right here is we're going to go up and start from up here, and then we're going to go down below the foot. So if the foot is below the ground, we'll still hit the floor and we can move the foot up. And if the foot is above the ground, we can still go below the foot and see the ground as well. So we'll go ahead and compile that real quick, and right here under start trace distance we're just going to set the Z location to 50, and we're going to set the end trace distance to 45. You can set it to 50 as well if you want, but oh yeah, and we forgot to hook this one up right here. So let's do a line trace by channel right here, and then we're going to hook this up to the start and that to the end. And we're just going to, for debug purposes, we're just going to turn this on to 1 frame. And then we're going to drag out our character reference. And we're going to say is walkable. Is walkable, not is walking. Make sure you don't accidentally select that one. I'm just going to move this down. The out hit is going to go into here and the branch. So if the surface is walkable, then go ahead and execute the rest of the code. Again, off the out hit, we're going to break it right here. Break hit result. And we're going to promote this to a local variable. We're going to call it impact point. And that's just the location that the trace hit the ground. And then we're going to promote this one to a local variable, and we're going to call it impact normal. And what this is, a normal is basically like an arrow that's pointing up off of a surface. So, but it's a value between 0 and 1 on the X, Y, and Z, depending on the slope. So if we come over here, you'll see if the slope was going from here to here, if the surface was going from here to here, then the normal would be pointing in this direction, 45 degrees to the right. But if it was a flat one, it would be pointing 90 degrees straight up. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that normal to determine the rotation of the foot, how much it needs to rotate. So I'll come back to this in a minute to show you and explain to you a bit more about it and what we're doing and why it works, how it works. So you can go ahead and collapse that. You can compile it again, make sure we don't have any more errors. So over here, we're going to go ahead and do our calculations. So we're going to get the impact point. We're going to get the expected floor location. We're going to get the impact normal. And then we need to make one variable over here. We're going to call it foot height. And this is just an offset value that allows us to multiply by the impact normal to get a vector of length, foot height, but in the same direction. So if you see here, if we have a value between 0 and 1 for the normal, but we want it to go out 13 centimeters, then we need to multiply 13.5 by whatever value this is right here, which in this case would be 0.7 on X and 0.7 on Y. So we're going to change that to a float and set it to 13.5, and then we're going to multiply vector by float. And then I'm going to add it to the impact point. And what this does is it allows us that whenever we're walking on slopes, it allows the foot positioning to be corrected slightly, because on slopes it'll offset your feet just a little bit. It looks better, so that's why they do it in ALS. So on here, we're going to add this to basically this, except we're going to manually set this to an always up position. I did a vector plus float. This needs to be a vector plus vector. And we'll just do that and pull this back a little like that. And then we're going to subtract it. Vector minus vector. And then on this one, this needs to be set to the L foot IK target. So we're going to say L foot IK target, and we're going to say by ref, set by ref variable, and we're going to plug that in right there. And let's bring this down. And I'm going to go ahead and comment this. Alright. So now we get to rotate the feet. So for this one, we actually need to make another variable, local variable right here, and we're going to call this we're going to call this rotation target, and we're going to set it as a rotator, and we're just going to set this right here. And then we're going to get this impact normal, and we're going to split it, and then we're going to right click and say A tan 2 and degrees, and this is an inverse tangent, which allows you to put two inputs, and it's going to divide y by x right here. If I'm correct, they say A over B, but then they show Y over X, which is confusing. But I'm pretty sure it's Y over X. So, an inverse tangent, let me go ahead and show you this. This is very useful in game development. Stuff like this, what we're doing here. And so you see this line right here, and you see this green line. It may be a little hard to see, but it goes to the right. And then the red line comes up off of it. So the red line is the opposite. The green line is the adjacent. So if we needed to get an angle, if we needed to find out what the angle is from this line, from this hypotenuse right here, to the adjacent, then the inverse tangent would give us this angle. The inverse tangent of the opposite divided by the adjacent would give us the angle. So that's what we're doing here. So in this case, we're going to split this so you can see it a bit better. We're going to multiply this, and on this one we're going to have to multiply it by -1 for a correction, and we're going to plug these in here before we set it up so that you can understand it better. And we're going to bring this back over here a little bit. Now, if we're rotating it on the x-axis, just ignore the roll, pitch, and yaw. It'll throw you off. If we're rotating it on the x-axis, let me go ahead and show you. Then it's going to move the foot up and down, because this is the x-axis, so it's rotating the x-axis, which will rotate everything down or up. So for that, we're going to say y. We're going to say y over z. So y over z. And if we move over here for the y, we're rotating the y this way and this way. That's going to tilt the foot from one side to the other, so that it's going to rotate it this way so that it sits correctly. And so we're going to say x over z. And that's how we do that. So you can go ahead and compile and save. And I'm just going to say now for here we just need to interpolate these values from the targets to the current, or from the current position to the targets. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to get the current location, the L foot IK offset and L foot IK target. L foot IK offset and L foot IK target. And we're going to duplicate this and duplicate it again. And then we're going to duplicate the IK offset twice. Actually, we only need to do it once. Now we're going to set by ref. And now we're going to pull these over here and we're going to split them. And the way they do it is, if the foot is below or above, depending on that, it seems to give a smoother transition if you set the interpolation speeds differently depending on that. So let's see, I made a little note here. If the foot location is up, so we're going to say if it's greater than the target, then it's above the target. So we're going to branch it. I'm just going to move all this down here. I'm going to move this back a little. Then we're going to do a V interp, as in vector interp 2. If it was a rotator, it would be R interp 2. And I'm going to move this back some. And we're going to set the offset as the current and the target as the target. Now we're going to get that delta time we stored as a variable. And we're going to do that. Now I'm just going to select all that and move it up and over. And then we can actually just Control W that and delete all that. Now let's see, 30 for up and 15. Now that's that. We're just gonna block it out, comment it, smoothly interpolate from current position to the target position. And now we're going to do it for the rotation. We're going to get the rotation target and get L rotation foot, get L foot IK rotation. Yeah. So we're going to duplicate this. We're going to, let's say, we're not doing that the two different interps for this one. We're just doing an R interp 2 for it. Let's duplicate this and set by variable reference. And then on this, we're just plugging this one in and the delta time. And let's see, we could set this to 30 or 15. I'm not really sure which is the best right offhand. You can play around with those values to get it to look smoother. You'll probably want to do that anyways, so to get a feel for it. Alright, so that one's set up. I'm pretty sure I did everything correctly. Let's go to set pelvis IK. Okay, so on this one we're going to get curve value. We're going to duplicate it. We're going to go back to the update. Oh, we haven't set these yet. Okay. So go ahead and set these. Enable foot IKL. Enable foot IKR. This one's going to be VB space IK foot R and root. And this one's going to be VB space IK foot L and root. And now I'm going to copy this and go back. No. Go to set pelvis. Come back here, go back, set that. Now we're going to add these together and divide them by 2 to get their average. And that will be our pelvis alpha. So the pelvis alpha will be the average of the 2 foot IK curve values. And I'm just going to reposition this. And then if this is greater than 0, then we're going to branch. And let's see. Okay. So if this is not greater than 0, then we're going to reset these. Get L foot IK and get L foot IK right. Actually, no, I'm mistaken. Let's create a local variable. We're gonna call this rotation. No, we're going to call this pelvis target, and this is going to be a vector, and this is what's going to be set. No, the pelvis offset needs to be set to 0, my bad. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So if the feet aren't stable right here, then we need to reset the pelvis offset so it doesn't snap. We're going to do a sequence off of this. And then we're going to, we still need these right here though. I shouldn't have deleted those. Get L, foot IK left, and get L, foot IK right target. And we're going to Control X those and paste them over here. May as well duplicate those. We're going to split these again. And if the left is less than the right on the Z, then that means it's lower than the right foot. If it's lower, then we want to set the pelvis target. And the reason why we're not setting the pelvis offset is because we want to linearly, or we want to use the interp2 node to interpolate it from where it is to the target. So branch off of here. And we're going to move this out. And if you've made it this far, that's impressive. You must really want to learn this stuff. I assume that most people aren't going to make it this far because they don't really want to put in the effort. So that's that, and this is going to be sets pelvis offset to the lowest foot offset, the lowest foot offset. And now we can linearly interpolate it from the target to the current. So we're going to get out the target, and we're going to get out the current. We're going to duplicate this, and for this we're using 2 interpolations. If the target is above, then it's 10. So if the offset is less than, we have to split it. If the Z is less than the target, then it'll be an interpolation of 10. We can duplicate this because we're going to set this directly. Oh, no, we don't need to duplicate it. Just drag it off of here, holding down Alt, and then duplicate that. And then go interp2. It'll be a V interp2. And then duplicate that. And move this over here. Move these down. Duplicate these. Offset is the current, target is the target. Get delta. This one will be 15. This one will be 10. We need to branch this. Smooth this out a bit more. Double click the line to reroute it. So we can go ahead and comment this out. And now we just have the reset IK, and this one we're just going to, I believe we're just basically zeroing these out for each of these. And then we'll hold down so that'll be an R interp 2, and we're going to duplicate that. And we're nearly done. And in case anyone was wondering, I do not have a second monitor. I am not looking at notes. I'm doing all this from memory. I'm just going to set these to like 10 or something. You can play around with the values. These are going to be vinterp 2s. We're just going to duplicate that and move this over here. Move this down here. Duplicate the delta x, delta time x. Again, I'm just going to set these to 10. And then I'm just going to do a sequence off of here. It's not really necessary. You could chain them all together if you wanted to. And let's see. Now we just need to add the update IK here. And hopefully I did everything correctly. Well, first off, we need to replace him with our character. So let's go to the third person blueprints. We're going to duplicate this. I'm just going to call this BP CC player. I'm going to drag this over here. I'm going to open it up and I'm just going to replace his mesh with mine. And his, I'm going to move this animation blueprint over here. I'm going to rename it to AnimBP CC player, and I'm going to press the back arrow here. Then I want to compile it, save it. I'm going to select third person game mode right here under world settings, drop this down, go back here, select the blueprint, and press the back button for the default pawn class. Now let's see, appears everything is, well, okay, I got some funny leg movement here. Looks like I didn't hook something up correctly back there. let's come back over here and open this up. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and look at this. Make sure this is in bone space. Make sure this is in world space. Alright, let's see. Let's come back over here to the foot IK. And give me a second and I'll be right back as soon as I figure out the fix. Alright, so I do believe that I found my issue. We accidentally closed it. So if you go back over to the set Pelvis IK, you'll notice that right here on this top one, I forgot to set the delta time. So that's all it was. So now, if you did everything correctly, like I did, except for forgetting to set the delta time, you should have a working system. Now I will go ahead and show you something else too. If we open up the blueprint and we select camera boom, we can enable lag on enable camera lag and rotation lag, and this will look a bit better. Alright, if this helped you out, please like down below and subscribe, and I hope this helped you.